Today on Missing Number, the bully werewolf myth, the revenge of the Freezer Man in The Binding of Isaac, and unsettling missing children ads in arcades. Missing Number starts now. Before Amber Alerts, and before the emergency alert system, there were arcade machines. In 1985, a mini golf game was released on arcades by a company called Bally Senti, which was bought by Atari's co-founder Nolan Bushnell. The trackball control game had you hitting a ball in a miniature golf course that contained things like loops, warp holes, and electric barriers. The game itself was nothing special, but it's what happened before the game even started that was unusual and jarring. Missing person ads appeared on screen that included black and white pictures of children with information about them. There were two versions of the game that showed different pairs of kids who vanished in the 1980s. One of the missing children that's pictured, Stephen Philip Curtis, was also featured in a missing person ad that was published in the Romulus Roman newspaper and a National School Safety Center news journal. Additionally, in 1986, another Bally Senti arcade game called Stompin' included another missing person ad. It's rumored that there were more Bally Senti games that included missing person photos, but no one has been able to find them. I personally played all of the other Bally Senti games that I had in my library, but I couldn't find any more photos. The games that did contain the missing person screens had a dip switch that provided the option to enable or disable the photos. There was even an option to toggle whether or not a child had been located. While a few online users claim to have seen a lot of these screens in arcades growing up, it doesn't seem like they were highly prevalent. So why were they specifically implemented in Bally Senti games, especially since the company was relatively small? In the 1970s and 80s, there were a string of high-profile missing child cases that eventually led to the creation of the Missing Children Milk Carton program. Perhaps the Missing Children arcade ads were an extension of that program. Arcades were popular at the time, and the FBI even had anti-drug messages in arcade games. In a 2017 interview published on a website called Atari Compendium, mini-golf designer Dennis Coble shed light on the missing kids' photos. Coble said that the FBI most likely approached Bally with the idea of including digitized missing children photos in some games. Near the end of mini-golf's development, someone suggested that the game feature the FBI photos, and so Coble was given completed screens of the photos to implement. He explained that he included a very simple code that consisted of, quote, a timer, a check for whether the feature was enabled via the onboard option switches, and the display of a static screen showing the children. The reason why no new kids were added to the game over time was due to how Bally Senti wasn't making enough money. At the time, the company sold their consoles with kits that allowed arcade operators to update their games without needing to spend thousands of dollars to buy a whole new console. This saved operators a lot of money, but this conversely caused Senti to lose money as well. As for whether or not the missing kids were ever found, the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette reported on July 13, 1985, that Merriman was found alive 3 years after he disappeared in Pennsylvania. He was now with his father after his mother was arrested in Georgia for illegally taking the couple's son during a custody battle. Meanwhile, according to the Morning Call newspaper published on July 28, 1985, Yates was believed to have been taken by her non-custodial father. Additionally, the aforementioned National School Safety Center news journal reported that Curtis was abducted by his mother. After searching online for the whereabouts of the missing children, I found individuals that may possibly be the missing kids. While they're not exact matches, the names and ages are accurate. They would now be in their 40s, and all of the matches lived in the same states where the kids went missing. In fact, the information on Yates and Morris revealed that they both lived in the exact same city and state where the kids of the same names vanished. April Rose Yates now goes by April Smith and has lived in Conway, South Carolina since March 2002. Meanwhile, Charles Morris has lived in Mesa, Arizona since June 2019. If you like this video so far, be sure to subscribe, like, and click the bell icon for notifications. If you have any gaming myths, mysteries, oddities, or Easter eggs, be sure to let me know. You can also check out my other YouTube channel and watch me live on Twitch. The links are in the video description. Now back to the show. It's 1:59 AM. The night is calm as the sound of crickets fills the air. You look up and it's a full moon. You then look back down and suddenly you see a dark figure run past you in the distance.
What was that? Dude, I just saw a black mask.
Legend has it that a werewolf prowls the town of Bulworth in the game Bully. Some say the creature lives in abandoned mines and will come out at night anywhere from 7 PM to 1:59 AM, just a minute before your character passes out after curfew. It can allegedly be seen on some rocks near a graveyard, on islands next to a sunken ship, outside an asylum, on a football field, and in the woodlands. If you spin the camera around while in the woods at 2 AM, there's a higher chance that the werewolf will appear behind you, at which point you will pass out and wake up in an infirmary. You will then unlock a werewolf outfit, which would be fitting since there are elf, alien, and ninja outfits in the game as well. One GameFAQs user named AbbyLover1 even claimed 10 years ago that you could befriend the werewolf, which discouraged people from picking a fight with you. Another alleged method for encountering the creature is that once you help a character named Johnny Vincent escape the asylum, there's a secret mission that you can take that involves finding another inmate. There's no hard evidence that proves that a werewolf exists, but there are some indications that bespeaks one. For instance, howling can be heard at the aforementioned places, as the game contains a sound file titled Wolf Howl. An unlockable werewolf mask can also be found in a locker, and the mask has a scar on it that looks identical to the one that the game's antagonist has. This implies that the antagonist, Gary Smith, is a werewolf, but upon closer inspection, the scars are actually different. The strongest evidence of werewolves is located inside the asylum where the legendary beast is thought to have escaped from. During a mission, mentally insane patients escape the asylum and have wild animalistic behavior. They can be seen hunched over and will pounce and bite their victims as if they're werewolves. However, their wild behavior may simply be a way to show how crazy they are, instead of being a suggestion that they're werewolves. The one thing that has people scratching their heads though, are strange x-ray pictures like this one that shows a body in a horizontal position with a weird looking jaw and eye sockets. There's also this picture that shows someone with an unusually long neck. These could be inmates with human deformities, and while the shape of the skull doesn't look wolf-like, some people were convinced that these are either werewolves or even aliens. To support the notion of the latter, there's a painting of the asylum that shows what looks like a gray alien. And there's even a mission where a hobo gets beamed up into the sky after you give him some radio transistors.
Take this.
Presumably he was taken by a UFO, and if that's the case, the notion of werewolves in Bully isn't so far-fetched. Other evidence that points to the existence of werewolves includes a drawing of a person with fangs, a school newspaper that has a picture of what looks like the face of a werewolf, a carnival fortune teller machine that gives this ominous fortune, a book that has scribblings from someone that was allegedly attacked by a demon/beast, and a preacher in a church that warns of creatures.
Birds, livestock, wild animals, all the creatures that swarm over the earth, and all mankind.
Curiously, a YouTuber named Flow Motion Films claims that there's a Bully guidebook that contains a note from the school's principal, Dr. Crabblesnitch, that reads, quote, "Traditional schooling did not leave me with any noticeable scars, apart from a few physical ones, and an inability to sleep without a light on." Crabblesnitch purportedly mentions how he hasn't been feeling like himself this year, and is only seen during the day. As such, people speculate that he's the werewolf, while others think it's the biology teacher based on what's in his classroom, or Edna the lunch lady who cooks pets.
Otherwise, I'm gonna have to put one of Ms. Phillips' cats in the casserole again.
Okay.
Meanwhile, others think it could be this nondescript silent patient that can be seen during a mission. Some even believe that your character Jimmy Hopkins is a werewolf, since when he passes out, his shoes and clothes will sometimes disappear. However, this is due to you being robbed while asleep, as seen in a message that pops up. To try to solve this mystery, I asked Bully's programmer Alex Hajjaj if there was a werewolf in the 17-year-old game, and he ended up liking my tweet without typing any response.
NANI?
It's a pretty cryptic and cheeky way of answering the question, but for those that want to believe that the mythical beast is still hiding in the game, I present to you this smoking hot piece of evidence. A cliffside texture that looks like the face of a werewolf. Or something. Fiend Folio is a 2020 mod for the Binding of Isaac that features new items, rooms, and enemies. There's one enemy though that has players frozen with fear. On extremely rare occasions, players may find themselves in an error room that contains a strange and mysterious spiky object called the Mother Orb. It doesn't do anything at first, but if you try to blow it up with bombs, the object will mysteriously change colors. If you use enough bombs, the objects will eventually turn black, and if you touch it, this will happen. A gray figure will suddenly flash on screen before crashing the game. What's more, multiple figures can even appear at once. It's pretty alarming and creepy, but just what the heck is this? If you've seen one of my previous videos, then this may look familiar. That's because this is actually the freezer from Saints Row. The freezer is a glitch in Saints Row 2 that takes the form of a shadowy human figure. It appears out of nowhere if you blast your way outside of the game's map, and it will randomly freeze your game. So the freezer in Fiend Folio is a reference to the deadly Saints Row glitch. It's just one of many silly references and Easter eggs that are hidden in the Binding of Isaac mod. However, it turns out that there's more to this reference than meets the eye. The eerie droning sound that plays right after the Mother Orb turns black is apparently a secret message. When sped up, the message contains alphanumeric characters that are part of an alternate reality game that has already been solved. According to the Fiend Folio fandom page, solving the ARG unlocked a character named Golem, who has a special ability to access an underground room where he can buy specialized rock trinkets. The freezer can be spawned through the debug console by typing spawn 960.1002. Meanwhile, you can teleport to the Mother Orb by typing go to s.error.17000.